ultimately, he had to find other ways to build that rapport. And to his credit, he did. And he did an unbelievable job getting integrated into this team, which isn't always easy to do these days because it's like you're in the facility, but everybody kind of goes their different directions and they live a lot of different places. It's not like when I played, everybody lived in the dorm, And so, I walk across the hall and see my buddy. That's not the case anymore, so.
Tell me about Martell Bale.
Sorry?
Martell Bale, can you tell me about him?
What do you want to know about him?
Well, I know he's huge, but tell me the rest.
Well, he's a mountain of a man, obviously. That's easy. Statistically, you can see that. But he's also a great human being. Yeah, unbelievable. He's probably grown. You got to give Coach Mirabal a lot of credit with that. But from his first day stepping on campus till now, I would say he's probably grown as much as any player on our team. As far as, I'm not just saying football-wise, but everything, But he's became an elite player. Somebody that you can count on to do his job, which is ultimately the people you want around you, right? And so he's really elite at his job, but he's also a very, very, very pleasant person to be around, which I think that's equally as important.
How did you get him?
Yeah.
How did he get to Miami from home?
In a plane?
Community college. You know what I'm saying?
I know. So he had a coach where he played JUCO ball at that had a very good relationship with Coach Mirabal and Coach Cristobal. And they did a great job recruiting him. Because I think at the time he was the number one tackle in the nation, or one of them JUCO-wise. So, but yeah, I mean, they had a connection there, which a lot of times you have to have boots on the ground. And then ultimately, every place isn't for everybody. And so when you go visit, you either love a place or hate a place. And he really liked the surrounding parts of Miami, and so it was a good fit for him. And they did an excellent job recruiting him.
Coach Carson, back to Georgia, he's been kind of a giant killer. What is it about him and going up against the best teams and prevailing?
I mean, part of it is just he's been in a lot of those games, and so experience plays a huge role because ultimately, even this isn't every game, and so he's just been in it for so long that nothing ever makes him blink. And he stays very steady in pressure situations. And so, he's just a steady player. And he's always, I put it like calm in the midst of the storm. You got to be the calm in the midst of the storm when you play quarterback. Not everybody is really good at that. But he's always the same all the time, in the game. And the communication is very clear. When he processes something on the field, he can come. Now we have iPads, right, so we can watch. But typically, when he says something coming off the field, and you go watch the iPad, it's spot on. And so he's seen a lot of football, and he's seen a lot of football in these type of games. And so experience definitely is a factor.
Shannon, the Louisville game.
What's up, man?
Hey, good. How did you handle that with him, the Louisville game, the struggles?
I don't know if I handled it with him. I went up to the office the next day. This is when I knew that really we were going to be fine, because I went up to the office the next day and he was extremely positive. Like he came into my office. I forgot exactly what he was doing, but he came to my office and we watched it. But he was very, he wasn't down. I was probably more down than he was. But he was very positive and very, hey, move on type approach. Probably because of what I told you. Like, hell, that ain't the first time he probably had one of those games, And I do think the way that we talked about that game matters, because ultimately, if you look at you play golf?
A little bit.
Are you any good at it?
No.
Yeah. I could have guessed that about you, probably.
Thanks. He's really good at this one.
Are you really? Where do you play?
He's shooting par.
Do you play at that place out in Jackson, Mississippi? What's the country club?
Country Club of Jackson, Annandale.
Annandale.
Yeah.
That was my buddy who is a member out there.
Yeah.
That's a nice. They have that PGA event out there, don't they?
Well, no, they moved it to Country Club of Jackson.
No, they didn't. But ultimately, about golf, okay? So me and you can play golf one day, right? And I'll beat you to death. But I could shoot 4 on a hole and you could shoot 4 on a hole. Or I could shoot 5 and you shoot 5, whatever, right? I could hit it down the middle, hit it on the green, and 2-putt for a par. You can hit it in the woods, chip out, get it up there, and chip it in for par. They're both pars. But if you look at it, the way we played it was completely different. So they don't draw pictures on the scoreboard, right? It's just four is four. It's the same way with that game. Like, he threw 4 interceptions. But when you look at those interceptions, they don't tell the story that I've thrown 4 interceptions in a game, right? They looked a lot worse than those 4 interceptions. So my point is, after really dissecting that game, ultimately, yeah, we got to own those interceptions, and he's got to own those interceptions. But if you look at every one of those interceptions, and 2 of them, they made unbelievable plays. And a lot of times at quarterback, you're sitting there trying to be bold, trying to do this, and sometimes somebody makes a great play, and you just got to give them credit. Like, damn, that's a pretty damn good play, and you got to move on to the next play. That's part of being a quarterback. You got to have short-term memory. And so there was a couple throws that really they just made really good plays, and then one throw got tipped, and the kid caught it was the story of them were a little different than like egregious interceptions. One of them was probably bad, but the other 3, I'm like, man, I would have probably thrown it there too, and damn, that kid made a pretty good play, And sometimes in football, bad things just happen, and you can't harp on them, and you gotta learn from them and move on fairly quickly. And I thought that process in that game, whenever we watched it, we were both very positive about, hey man, like, we gotta take care of the football. That's obvious. But the other thing too is like, man, they made a couple really good plays there, and it cost us a couple possessions. And I thought the most positive thing about that game, not to harp on it too long, but we probably played our worst that we could play as far as turning the ball over, whatever. We had a chance to win it at the end. We still had a chance to win the game, and we played our worst football. And so, that was an easy spin for me, to the whole group really, but to Carson at first. And so he handled it great. His I knew when he walked into the office, when he started talking, I was like, all right, we're going to be fine, because ultimately he sees things very clearly.
Well, not Carson. It was about a year ago today when he made a decision. It surprised everybody, maybe even you. To leave the NFL and come here. It was kind of a blow. Can you reflect back on that a little bit and his vision on it?
Yeah, it was, in this day and age with transfer stuff, you got to get a lot of information in a little bit of time. And so, luckily enough for me, I knew some people in Carson's background. I knew Monken very well, so I had a long conversation with him because I didn't know a lot about Carson other than what I could put on TV. I could watch his games and tell he was a talented thrower of the football. He's won a lot of games, but I didn't know a lot about the person. And I think a lot of people don't know a lot about the person, and they make certain assumptions about Carson that really aren't true. And there's some narratives about him that really, once you get to know him are the furthest thing from the truth. But having those conversations with Coach Monken, and he was probably the one that kind of put me over the top about him as a player. Then we had to figure out the injury and like what's the probability of him being 100% again. And there's a couple guys out there, like Brock Purdy had the same injury. Nick Mullins, who I coached at Southern Miss, had the same injury. So I did have conversations with Nick about, hey man, like how do you feel the next year after this? And he put my mind at ease about, the rehab and his ability to come back and be the same player. But ultimately the decision had to be made quick, and I had to get as much information as I could to make that decision. And those two probably were the ones that tilted it the most. What's up?
Shannon, just your thoughts on your receivers that you guys have now that you've been rolling out, the 3 that you've been primarily, just how they've been playing. I know Malachi's had a couple lower games than he's had, but just your thoughts on how things are going with that group.
I think that group plays the grittiest of any receiver group I've ever had. And at the beginning of the year, every year is the same as far as the narrative is, especially with those guys, is affect the game without the ball. That's one narrative I push hard with receivers, because ultimately, let's just say we play 70 plays in a game. If you catch 7 balls, that's a good game, right? Or 8 balls, that's a good game, right? Let's just say you play 50 of those snaps, right? Well, then there's 43 plays in the game that you don't have the ball. What do you do on those 43 plays? Are you affecting the game on those 43 plays? And if you go watch those 3 guys play, and even JoJo and Josh and the guys that come in, they do a great job of affecting the game without the ball. They've made some blocks that won us games. And what makes me excited about it is they get as excited about that as they do about catching a touchdown. At this point, they've embraced that to the point I've never seen. You got to give Coach Beard a lot of credit with those guys, but they do. They buy into, and how we play football is you have to have that, especially at those guys, because we ask them to do a lot. We ask them to block people, which not everybody does. Most people are throwing RPOs around people, and then if you hand it, the safety's free, But we're asking them to go block the guy, which isn't always fun, but they've embraced it, and they get as excited about that as they do anything, which excites me.